Hey everyone, and welcome to the last of our 12 days of Bookmas, extended Bookmas videos. So if you've been watching the channel over the last few days, you'll know that we decided to do Bookmas. So we did a book video a day in December, and then we had so much content that we still wanted to do that we decided to extend it and kind of finish off the 12 days of Bookmas, which the last date is today. So for our last video, we thought we would do our 2020 reading stats. Now, this is the first time that I've attempted to do a reading stats video. We literally put our reading spreadsheet together like a couple of days ago. We just rushed it all out. So if there is anything that is missing from this video that you like to see, if there is a kind of order that you prefer, or if there is a way of doing it that you would like us to consider featuring if we do one of these in the future, please let us know down in the comments. We are kind of going into this blind. I really enjoy watching stats videos and learning about other people's reading habits, so I thought it would be a fun video to make, even if it's just something that I can refer back to throughout the next year, and having the spreadsheet is already so helpful. But yes, I'm not completely sure on the best way to structure it, so if there is anything that you would suggest, please do let us know. I'm going to be looking at my phone throughout the video because I do have the graphs on my phone so that I can refer to them, but also we're going to have the graphs up here for you to see, so you'll be mostly looking at those anyway, so it doesn't matter if I'm not looking at you, but I will apologise in advance that is where I keep looking down. So to start off with, I'd like to tell you how many pages we read in 2020, and that is 85,948 pages. Now, this isn't too surprising because we read 240 books, and that means it's an average of 358 pages per book, which, as you'll see from our page count graph, is pretty much where we were doing most of our reading. Most of the reading is in the 301 to 400 pages segment, which is 48%. Frustratingly, when I was drafting this all up, because we decided to break it down into a few different 100 sections, we realised that actually 10 books that we read were exactly 400 pages. So 5% of the ones in this is actually, they would have been in the 400 to 500 section if we decided to do it from 400 instead of 401, which is like mildly frustrating, but it's fine. I'm really proud to see that we've been reading quite a lot of bigger books this year. I had broken this down a lot further, so we did have like books that were over 1,000 pages, books that were over 800 pages, but we'd only read one book which was over 1,000 pages, which was It by Stephen King, and we'd only read two books that were over 800 pages, which were House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas and The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. That's definitely something I'd like to be focusing on in the next year of reading, is reading more books with more pages, because I used to be absolutely terrified of bigger books, and I've realised this year that the bigger books seem to be the ones that I'm giving the better ratings to. I don't know if that's because the characters are more fleshed out, or because we're really immersed in the world, or because the story is more structured, but that's definitely something that I'd like to continue doing in 2021, and I would like to see this pie chart in 12 months with a bit more of a skew towards the bigger page counts. I'm also not surprised that there's 10% of the books that are under 200 pages, because we have read quite a few novellas this year. So we've read The Case of the Missing Treasure and The Case of the Drowned Pearl by Robin Stevens, which are both short stories. I read and loved Opal by Maggie Stiefvater. There were a few like free short stories that I read as well. But that's always going to have quite a bit in that, I think, because just the way that authors are writing at the moment, where they're having short stories to kind of supplement the world, that's always something that I'm going to enjoy reading around, so there are always going to be quite a big chunk in the less than 200 pages. So now we will move on from page count to our star ratings. That's probably a good place to go next, isn't it? So as you'll see from our star rating, we actually have 1% of books that are 0 stars. Now, I don't know if they'll be in frame, but I can tell you that it's a certain author who I've decided that I don't agree with their views, and I don't want to be seen as recommending or celebrating their books, so I decided to change all of their star ratings to 0 on Goodreads. This is something that I have made the personal choice about. I don't judge you if you still rate these books highly and still celebrate them, because I do think there's a conversation there about death of the artist and the kind of removal from the creator to the actual creation. But personally, I don't want star ratings on those on my Goodreads, so those are the 0 stars. They are the only books that will ever be rated 0 stars, so if I do decide to continue on with the series, then we might see some 0 stars in the spreadsheet graphs that we do at the end of 2021. But I don't have any plans to carry on with the series at any point soon, so that it will remain unknown until we get to the end of this year. So as you will see, the majority of books we read this year were 4 stars. So we read 42% of 4-star books, which I think is really, really good. Like, a 4 star is a great rating. Next highest is 3 stars at 24%, and that's kind of where I put anything that I feel a bit meh about. So for me, personally, my rating structure is 1 star is so awful it shouldn't have even been published. I absolutely hated it. 2 stars is when there's a book that is quite bad, but it still has an aspect that is of merit. So if this is a book that was really grammatically inaccurate and had lots of spelling mistakes but had really good ace rep, or if this was a book that was quite derogatory towards fat characters but it did a lot for mental health rep or something like that. These are just examples. I can't think of any specific books off the top of my head. But this is when there's like one little thing that kind of redeems the book for me, which takes out of that so bad it shouldn't have been published category. 3 stars is meh. Like, it was good. I can see why people like it. It just wasn't for me. It's just kind of my middle of the road, not too good, not too bad rating. 4 stars is when I enjoyed it, but again, it just wasn't exactly for me, so I didn't love it. There was either a big aspect that I didn't like, or there was something missing from it, or there was a kind of disconnect. And 5 stars are the books that I think of as my favourite books. They're books that I would reread constantly. A lot of the books this year are rereads, so we'll be getting to that in just a moment. But yes, 5 stars are like untouchable for me. I have started breaking my rating system down into like a 10-point system, so I have been using 0.5 stars this year, but I don't count those on Goodreads, so I haven't put these in the spreadsheet. That is again something that might change in 2021 if I continue to award more half-star ratings. But at the moment, leaving it as it is with this 5-star system. But I am really chuffed that I had 20% of 5 stars, because like that's really, really good. That's like 50 books. I can't remember. I will link down in the description. I did a video that talked about all of my 1 stars and all of my 5 stars that I gave in 2020. So I am glad to see that 5 stars is like a definite chunk. It's not a very rare rating for me to give, but hopefully going forward, as I'm starting to know my reading tastes more, hopefully there will be less on the 1 to 2 star side, and then maybe the 3 stars could shrink a little bit as well, and then I'll have more 5-star books that I absolutely love. I have forgotten to get pictures of my rereads, so I'm just going to get that up on the surface quickly. This is going well, as I can tell. As you can tell, we haven't done one of these before, as I said. But yes, here we go. Reread chart for you. So we did 12% of rereads this year. 12%. So that is more rereads than I would normally do. I've been rereading a lot more because I have read a lot of these books by myself in the past, before I met Sean, and he has heard so much about them from me, and he's really interested in them. So we're rereading them together so that he can discover some of my favourite books for himself. So we've reread the Murder Most Unladylike series. I'd read up to book 6 by myself, but I've reread them all with him this year. Reread the Red Rising series. Reread a couple of other things that I can't think of off the top of my head. But yes, reread's not the most common for me, but becoming more common, but that's something that will probably end up kind of dropping off either this year or next year anyway, because we're getting to the stage where I've read most of my favourite books with Sean already, and there are so many new releases that we want to read together that it's easier to kind of go forward with those. Right, what works well after rereads? Right, let's go with year published. So the year published chart, as you can see, has an overwhelming majority of books that were published between 2010 and 2018, which was 49%. So that is mostly going to be because of the fact that I've started my TBR jar and I've been working through a lot of my NetGalley backlist books. So I started NetGalley in 2015 and I've been requesting avidly since then, and I've gotten very, 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 very far behind, and so that is something that I have been working on, but it does mean that I'm reading a lot of books from like 2015, 2016 that I should have read already and I haven't yet. As you'll be able to see, there are 8% of pre-2000 books, so that includes any classics that we read. There was one book that was pre-1900, which was The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Gilman Gilman, but I decided to just lump those all in together into like pre-2000s because most of the books I'd read pre-2000 were published in the 90s. And we've also got some from the early 2000s as well, but that is mostly, again, rereads. So we've got like the Noughts and Crosses series by Mallory Blackman, lots of kind of rereads coming in. However, we have also managed to read 21% of books that were published either in 2020, 2021 or 2022. It sounds so ridiculous that it was 2020 and I read a book that's being published in 2 years, but I did. And it was really enjoyable, so I'll probably end up rereading that one at some point as well. So yeah, I'm pretty chuffed with the fact that I've been working on the review books. I'd like to see more of a skew towards the like super duper recent releases. Like my aim would kind of be to have 25 to 30% of 2021 2022 releases by the end of this year, and then kind of keep that 16% for the 2019 2020. So then it's like half of the pie chart will be either the next like upcoming releases or very recent backlist. But we'll wait and see, because again, like it kind of depends on what I pick out of the TBR jar, and I am doing quite a bit of mood reading at the moment. I say mood reading, that I'm picking what I want to, but I'm making it fit my hooker ducks. So we'll wait and see how that goes. Talking of the fact that I've read quite a few series, now is probably a good time to show you the series or standalone graph, in which I read 47% standalones and 53% books that were parts of series. So this includes books that are the first book in a series, so it's probably a case of I've actually started more series that I've continued on with, and next year I will be breaking this pie chart down a bit lower, so you've got standalones, you've got first book in a series, and you've got series continuation, because I'm already interested to know how many series I've continued with, or how many I've just like read the first book of. I have been actively prioritising reading the rest of series this year, because I've always been the kind of person that I read the first book and I'm really excited for the next one, and then I never pick it up because I'm not smart. I find that when I wait between the releases, I then don't want to reread before the second one, but I can't remember enough to read the second one without rereading, and that's something that now that I am starting to reread more actively, it should be less of a problem. So hopefully I'll have more completed series by the end of the year, but I'm pretty happy that this is like a 50, almost 50-50 split, because that's a pretty good ratio in my opinion. Another split that I'm pretty happy with is the author by gender pie chart. And so I've read 68% female authors, 29% male authors, and 3% other authors. So in this case, other is non-binary authors. It is authors who write as a pairing or on anthology releases. I wasn't sure whether to break it down further because I haven't read many in that other category. It is only 3%, but this is again something that I'd like to prioritise reading over the next year, is reading more non-binary authors. There are already some books in the forefront of my mind that are by non-binary authors that I've been looking forward to picking up, so hopefully just by eventually getting to those releases this will increase, but I'm pretty happy with it. I've always liked reading female authors more than male authors. It's something that I've always felt that I connect with female writers more. I've tried in the past reading like equal 50-50 splits, and I've always ended up skewing towards the female authors more, so this chart doesn't surprise me, but I'm pretty happy with how it's sitting. More interested in expanding that other section a bit more. So we have 2 pie charts left, and I'm going to start off with the How I Read in 2020 chart. So this is the format of the books that we were reading. So we've broken this down into library, NetGalley, shelf, ARC, or other. So Sean will be popping up very kindly for us a bar chart in just a second, which is going to show what the other breaks down into, because it's books that I've bought on the Kindle Daily Deal, it's books that I've read through Secret Readers, it's books that I've read through Riveted Lit, which is a free Reads website where the books get uploaded so that you can read them. It's books that I've read that are other, so I read a book that was emailed out from the author's mailing list. So I had broken this down a lot more, but it didn't look as easy to see in the pie chart format, which is why those have all been combined down into that other section. But as it is only 6%, it's okay. Like, it sits quite nicely there with all of those in it. Otherwise they're like 1% each. But those are just like the kind of other ways that I read. So I'm really, really, really chuffed with the fact that the NetGalley is 33%. Like, I'm glad that I managed to prioritise my NetGalley books a bit better. I know it's a lot of backlist ones, and I know that it's something I need to work on in the future, but the fact that a third of all of the books I read this year were on NetGalley, like, I'm loving that, and that is something that I'd like to increase further. I've already said to Sean that I'd ideally like to read 100 books on NetGalley in 2021. Seeing as this is a 240 book pie, that would mean I read slightly more if I also read 240 books in 2021, but I'm also only planning on reading 100 books in 2021, so that means I want all of them to be from NetGalley, and the first book we've already read is a library book, so it's not it's not looking good so far. Contradicting goals in my mind, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to get that 100 book target done pretty easily anyway, so then I've got some more kind of room to play with it. But yes, definitely I want to see the NetGalley pie increasing. I'm glad to see the fact that the shelf is 36%. So shelf means any books that we got off of our shelf. It's a book that we physically own, whether it's mine, whether it's Sean's, whether it's one that Mum lent to us. It's a book that we read physically that wasn't from the library and wasn't an advanced reader copy. I did read 4% advanced reader copies. Some of them were ones that I was sent in the past that I've reread. Golden Sun and Morning Star in particular are the ones I'm thinking of for that. But I did read a couple of upcoming releases as well in ARC format. I mean, I'd love to increase that in 2020, but also the pressure when publishers send you a book, the pressure to enjoy it and to love it. I always feel a bit apprehensive about it because I want to be able to give them an honest review, and I will always give honest reviews, but sometimes I worry that I just put too much pressure on myself to like it, and then if I don't like it, is it because I'm pressuring myself? So yeah, I'm happy with the fact that I get ARCs. I'm really, really grateful to the publishers who do send them to me, but also scary. It's really scary. And I'm not surprised to see the fact that the library pie is only on 21% because obviously the library has been closed for a lot of the year. Most of those books will actually be library books that I've read through either BorrowBox or Overdrive, Libby. So I'm not surprised that that's smaller. In a normal year when the libraries were open, I think that would have ended up being bigger than the NetGalley pie because I'm just a sucker for libraries and I do have a stack on the stairs that I need to kind of try and get through sooner rather than later. So the library pie will be getting a boost for 2021 over the next few weeks, but then hopefully it'll shrink a bit more. I love libraries and I will always support libraries, but also we do own a lot of books and I do have a lot of NetGalley books to get to, so I need to learn how to prioritise reading library books less and how to control myself a bit more on the library app. But it is really, really handy for getting new releases that you just can't get hold of any other way, and for the pesky books in series that you can't happen to get hold of. So that brings us to our last pie chart, and this is our genre breakdown. So this is a beautifully bright and colourful one that Sean managed to arts up for me. He might have arts up all the other ones, so it might sound really silly, but like based off of the ones that I'm looking at, they're all like orange and grey, apart from this one's really, really bright and colourful. So in my head this is still going to be the colourful pie. So as you can see, young adult 58%, over half of the books. That's not surprising. Non-fiction 5%. I'm really chuffed with that. I was reading a lot of non-fiction books about the Black Lives Matter movement, about racism and anti-racism, and I'm glad that I prioritised that because I think 2020 as a year was a bit of a shit show. I think we can all agree on that. But in particular, the discussions that were being had about race and racism weren't discussions that should have been necessary in 2020. These are discussions that should have been resolved years ago, and it should be something that we can kind of put down and work past. But I think I'm glad that I decided to prioritise learning more about the Black Lives Matter movement and learning more about race, and I feel as though it made me a better person and more knowledgeable on how to talk about race, and I'm glad that it made such a sizable chunk of this pie. If anything, I would like to increase my non-fiction reading further, but again, that would involve reading more library books because I mostly read my non-fiction through the library, so that's another kind of contradictory aim. But possibly next year, as my NetGalley books get more under control, possibly I'll start focusing on non-fiction more then. So that might be more of a reading goal for future Alyce rather than for Alyce right now. And last, but by no means least, we have the middle grade and adult categories, which are 18% and 19% respectively. Like, I am so happy with that. I've been discovering a lot more middle grade this year, thanks to How to Train Your Gavin and Believeathon. It's never been a genre that I read a lot of because I thought it was children's fiction, and I was like, I'm too old to read middle grade. That's stupid. You're never too old to read middle grade, and I think in a year like this, it's so important to kind of bring that magic back to life. And so I'm glad I prioritised that. But I am also glad that I've been reading more adult fiction. A lot of that is going to be fantasy and sci-fi as well, which is completely out of the left field for me. But I've still been reading quite a few crimes and thrillers. So possibly next year I might break this down more into genre. So I might do like middle grade, YA, crimes, fantasy, like break it down a bit more. Because I think, especially when it comes to the adult category, I am reading so widely. My young adult reading is mostly kind of dystopians, fantasies, but then I do kind of read quite a few contemporaries as well, so maybe I need to do a pie for like young adult genres, but that's something that we can think about next year. I'll rewatch this video in 12 months and be like, Alyce, what were you thinking? You've given yourself so many jobs to do, but at least now I know how to make a pie chart and I won't have to have an endless struggle with Excel to try and get these put together. So I'm looking forward already to the end of the year so that I can break this down a bit more. So yeah, that was my reading stats for the 240 books that I read in 2020. I am feeling pretty happy with that, actually. I was not expecting to read this many books. My reading goal to start the year off was 120, and then lockdown happened, and then lockdown 2 happened, and now we're in lockdown 3. Congratulations, UK government. So there's a good chance that I'll get all 100 books for my Goodreads goal for this year read before lockdown 1 is, well, lockdown 21 1. I don't know. Hopefully I'll get a lot of books read in January and February and possibly March, and then I'll be back at work and my reading will slow down again. But this is a good opportunity to read as much as I possibly can to try and distract my brain from everything that's going on. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you've enjoyed every single Bookmas and Bookmas Extended video that we have put out. I'm so grateful for all of the subscribers that we've gained throughout the month of December, and I hope that you'll stick with us over the next few months. From here on out, we're going to be posting videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, so we will have a schedule going forward. We won't just stop posting and go back to posting like once a month, which is exciting. I'm looking forward to it, and we've got some really fun videos coming up. We've got some fun little reading challenges that we're setting ourselves. Sean's still going to be taking over on Saturday, so you're still going to have enough of his face to last you a week. But yes, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please like it. If you've got any recommendations on how to make this stats video better in the future, then please leave them down in the comments, and it's something that we can try and incorporate into our spreadsheet. If you'd like us to do like a tour of our spreadsheet to see more specifically like what we were reading and how we broke this all down when we wrote it out, then hit us up and we can always try and get that organised for you. I didn't know how to screen record, but like I can learn. But yes, thank you for watching, and we will see you tomorrow, because tomorrow's Thursday, so we're still doing a daily video tomorrow, but it's going to be different, and it's going to be like proper, like all year round content, and it's going to have a fancy new intro that I've been working really hard on. So come back tomorrow, check out our new intro. It's really cool and I'm really proud of it. Thank you for watching. Bye.